So, with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness already out, and many people already releasing spoilers, releasing clips, even finding ways to, upload the movie online for people to download, many folks have been speculating and wondering, what's next after this, since along with things like Loki and somewhat with WandaVision, which led into Doctor Strange, the question is, what is next? And the obvious answer to a lot of people, because of all the hints that they saw in the movie Multiverse of Madness, as well as in the other MCU Disney Plus shows and some of the other MCU films that came around the same time, to a lot of folks, the next big thing that this is all leading up to is Secret Wars. And you might say to yourself, well, we don't really know that. And that is true. But there's a lot of comic book enthusiasts, nerds out there, and I say that with all due respect, no offense, but a lot of comic book enthusiasts, nerds, geeks, gurus, hyperfans, if you will, that can pretty much look at a lot of the little Easter eggs, the hints, the moments, certain scenes and all that, and basically point out all the evidence in their eyes, that will lead to the potential Secret Wars movie coming out in the future. But the question is now, for anybody, in fact, two questions, to be exact. The questions are, when will Secret Wars come out? Should it happen? And secondly, will it be a 1 or 2 part event, like let's say Infinity War and Endgame were last time we had an Avengers team up? Well, let's talk about that. Now, as far as a potential release date is concerned, I don't expect Secret Wars to come out anytime between now and I would say 2025. I would say the latest that we will get an Avengers event, back on the big screen, and in this case being Secret Wars, I would expect it would be between 2026 and 2028. That is my projection. Now, don't hold me to that, but knowing how this MCU, I guess you could say, filmography works, this MCU filmography and timeline works, I would not put it past Kevin Feige to come out in the near future and announce that between 2026 and 2028, those are going to be the projected years that they plan to release Avengers Secret War. But to tie into that, one has to wonder, when will that announcement be made? When will that announcement come to fruition? And knowing how Disney and Kevin Feige, and the overall MCU blueprint works out, from a movie slate standpoint, scheduling slate standpoint, as far as the announcements go for those movies, I would expect, and again, don't hold me to this, but I would expect some kind of announcement to be made between this year, 2022, and next year in 2023. And when I think they'll be made official, from an announcement standpoint, I would expect either San Diego Comic-Con 2022 or D23 2022. I would expect between one of those two events this year or between one of those two events next year that they will make some kind of announcement that Secret Wars is coming. And when they make that announcement is when I believe they will give us that projected release year of between 2026 and 2028. So, yeah, there is no doubt in my mind, if Secret Wars is the next Avengers level movie event to look forward to, that in my opinion, not only will I believe it will occur between 2026 and 2028, but I also suspect that an announcement for Secret Wars will be made between San Diego Comic-Con 2022 and D23 2022, or San Diego Comic-Con 2023 and D23, or some kind of D23 like event in 2023 as well. So expect basically the summers of either this year or the summer of next year, for these announcements to be made. And I know I just said summers. I should have said summer of this year and summer of next year. That's what happens when you do audio videos, on-screen videos, unscripted and on the fly. You just got to go with what you can, and sometimes, have to basically correct yourself in what you say because it's not what you intended to say originally. But yeah, I expect that between the summer of this year and the summer of next year is when we'll get some kind of announcement. And I truly expect, like I said, that when Kevin Feige and whoever he teams up with, the Russo brothers, whoever, to bring this to life, that he's going to make the announcement that the tentative release date as of this moment, or as of that moment when the announcement is made, will be between 2026 and 2028. But you might ask yourself, well, what if it's a two-parter? Doesn't that change things up? Well, let's get into that. As far as it being a two-parter, then I look at it this way. If it's, planned to be, if the tentative release date for Secret Wars is 2026, if it's a two-part event, just like Avengers Infinity War and Endgame was, then I would expect, ladies and gentlemen, that basically you are looking at 2026 and 2027 for the two-part Secret Wars event. Now, if he decides to hold off until 2028, then I would expect between 2028 and 2029 for the two-part Secret Wars event. So if it is two parts and not one, like I said, I expect projection-wise, and again, don't hold me to this, but I project, projection-wise, as far as tentative release dates go, if it's a two-parter, 2026, 2027, and 2028, or I should say not and, but or 2028 and 2029. Those are the best scenarios in my opinion. But now the question obviously that anybody would have is, is it going to be a two-parter? Is Secret Wars going to be two parts? Well, let's get into that. And if I'm going to be honest about it being two parts, I would have to say the most likely money, betting-wise, would be yes. I mean, if I was to place my bets right now, guys, on how massive the Secret Wars Avenger movie would be, I would say it's going to be big enough to have to be shown in two parts, just like Infinity War and Endgame were. That is what I believe is going to happen. Again, if I was a betting man and I was to put money down on it, that basically is the length of how huge I think the story will be. Now you might ask and wonder why. Well, it's real simple. You see, the way it's basically, hold on for a second. Sorry about that, I had to think about what I was going to say first. But the way, from a storyline perspective, that it's told, it feels like it's in two parts. Even though it's one whole story, it feels like it's in two parts. You got the first part with the Beyonder gathering all the heroes, right? Or at least after gathering all the heroes, you have the Beyonder or Beyonders bringing them to a world to fight each other. So, or you have the heroes fighting each other before coming together. So you have one part there which eventually could lead into a second part. So there's that. Then you have the battle world portion of the story, and whoever they get to be involved in that with Doom and Beyonders and whoever else, you got that could serve as its own solo movie, if you will, basically its own second part to the entire story. So to me, when I look at Secret Wars, I look at something that definitely feels like it could span across, from a one whole story perspective, span across, I should say, two movies, just like Infinity War and Endgame did. Now, could I be wrong? Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that I could be wrong about what I'm saying right now as far as projections are concerned. But if Secret Wars is being touted and hyped up to be this massive, major event that pretty much can stand alongside, if not surpass, what we got with Infinity War and Endgame, because it involves not one, but a multitude of multiverses out there, and a multitude of alternate variants of heroes and villains, then in my mind, when you put that all together, Secret Wars as a movie definitely feels like it deserves to be, or should be, showcased in not one but two parts. Because in two parts, you'll be able to tell the story the way you want it to be told. If you do it in one part, you can still kind of tell the story you want to be told, but you're either going to A, extend the movie to be the longest MCU movie in history, or B, you're going to have to condense things so much, it's going to feel like a convoluted mess. So to me, the most likely scenario for Secret Wars, the next Avengers movie event that a lot of people feel is what we're heading towards, to me, the most likely scenario for the whole story of Secret Wars to be told is a two-part scenario. That's what I feel is going to happen. Again, it's just an opinion of what I project and seen, as a direction that they might take. But again, like I said, I could be wrong about this. I could absolutely be wrong about this. Now, one other question a lot of fans have, and I know this is going to be like a third, unexpected part here. One other question fans have is, when will the Beyonder get involved? Or the Beyonders? Well, that's something to really ponder about. So let's do that. You see, when Thanos arrived, we got a first glimpse of him at the end of the first Avengers movie. So we knew, especially if you're a hardcore comic book enthusiast, you knew seeing him at the end of Avengers basically meant that, this is just the beginning and we're building to something even bigger and more grandioso, in the long run. Like basically you knew there was a bigger storyline and a bigger plan at work. And lo and behold, that's exactly what we ended up getting. But the question is now, how do the Beyonders eventually show up? Well, so far we've had No Way Home, we've had Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and we even had Far From Home. And some other Marvel movies in between, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, you name it. And neither any one of them have had the Beyonder, or any of the Beyonders, if you will, show up. Neither one of them. However, somebody as powerful, if not more powerful, depending on your view of him, did show up, and that is Kang the Conqueror. we saw him show up in a good variant of himself in Loki. We saw that. And he kind of gave an explanation as to why he was there. Now here's the thing. We know he's being promoted as basically being the next big bad. In other words, the next Thanos, if you will, building to the next big major event. We know that. But we don't know exactly when Kevin Feige and all of them are going to, basically say, pull the trigger, let's make Kang the Conqueror the big bad. Let's do this, let's run with it, I should say. They don't, we don't know. We don't know when they're going to do that. For all we know, they may say, okay, he's just going to be Kang the Conqueror for Ant-Man and Wasp, Quantumania, and that's it. And just go in a different direction. And that might happen. But if what we saw at the end of Loki is any indication, and Loki connects to the MCU in a big way, then, Kang is being positioned as the big bad. But when and where that's executed, in the grand scheme of things, that's, again, totally up to Kevin Feige and his group as to when they want to pull the trigger. I mean, we already seen John Krasinski as Reed Richards in Multiverse of Madness. We already saw him there. Okay? So we know, with him indicating that he and Sue of that universe of Earth 838 have children, we know one of those children could be his son that's able to create anything out of nothing. Reconstitute, recreate, create, whatever, out of nothing. So we know potentially that son of his is there. And that son potentially could be a variant of Kang the Conqueror in the near future, but we're not totally sure yet. We're not totally sure. But we know he's there. We know that's a possibility. So whenever, like I said, Feige decides to pull the trigger to say Kang's going to be the final boss, and there's going to be no one else after him until they decide to find somebody else. Until Kevin Feige decides to pull that trigger, the thing is, basically the thing is, he's still an option to look at as to maybe causing this incursion, if you will, to continue. But I know I got a little bit off track there, so let's get back to the Beyonder. Like I said, we know Kang's being set up as the final boss, the be-all, end-all. But if you're going to bring the Beyonders in, and they're supposed to be powerful, almost at the level of celestial beings, then how do you bring them in to help build towards Secret Wars? How do you include them? When do they show up? And my thought is this. I think, honestly, and this is an opinion, I think when Secret Wars, is announced, like I said, it could be within the next, I would say 4 to 5, 6 to 7 years. Between the next 4 to 7 years, we'll put it that way, that we're going to see Secret Wars on the big screen. My projection, my opinion and speculation is we won't see the Beyonders showing up on the big screen in post-credit scenes. No, we won't see it. Mid-credit scenes, whatever, we will not see them show up in that manner. I think if Disney is determined to get these MCU connected shows off the ground and show that they do have a connection to the MCU filmography, basically the movies, then my assumption is we're going to see the Beyonders one by one showing up at the conclusion of each season of a Disney Plus show. That's what I see happening. So I could see at the end of Miss Marvel, a Beyonder showing up and getting Miss Marvel, Kamala, if you will. I could see them getting her. I could see at the end of She-Hulk them doing the same thing with her. I could see potentially at the end of season 2 of Loki them getting Loki. I could see that. I could see at the end of Secret Invasion them recruiting Nick Fury and his, I guess you could say, hold on for a sec. Okay. I could see them at the end of Secret Invasion when that show first season or only season concludes. I could see them recruiting Nick Fury and his Skrull agents to be part of this. I could see that. You know. So, you know, there's a possibility that a lot could happen. There's a possibility that a lot could happen. You know, I could even see them, if they do another season of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I could see them, you know, at the end of that, recruiting Bucky and, you know, Falcon to be part of Secret Wars. I could see that too. And heck, depending on when the third Doctor Strange film happens, I could see them going in and recruiting Strange and Siri, Charlize Theron's character, to be part of this as well. I can see all that happening. Heck, I can even see him going to Kang the Conqueror and getting him. I can see that. You know, I can even see them maybe in a post-credit scene, you know, with Ant-Man and Wasp, Quantumania, going in and getting them. Who's to say? I could even see them maybe, if Disney and Sony can work this out, going into one of the upcoming Spider-Verse movies and recruiting Silver Sable, bringing over Black Cat, bringing over Morbius, bringing over Venom. Heck, even maybe show us a scene where they're bringing over Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I can see that all happening. But the question is, when and where? And like I said, the most likely starting point won't be the movies right away. The most likely starting point will be those Disney Plus series. Because like I said, I believe the first characters, that if you're going to bring the Beyonders in to help set up the Secret Wars movie, the first couple of characters I think they're going to be bringing in will be from the Disney Plus shows. That being Kamala's character, Miss Marvel. I can see them bringing in She-Hulk's character, you know, Loki after the second season of Loki, and whoever else is involved there. I can see that all happening. I really can. But again, that's totally up to Kevin Feige and his team as to when they want to pull the trigger of not just when sorry about that. Got a little hair or mucus in my throat. But like I said, that'll be totally up to Feige and his team as to when and where they want to pull the trigger on Kang being the be-all, end-all final boss of this phase of the MCU. And secondly, it's going to be up to them as to when and where they decide to unleash the Beyonders to recruit several MCU villains and heroes to be part of the Secret Wars event. So, again, my thought is this. You're going to start with Disney Plus shows and the characters that are part of that being brought in, being recruited, whatever, by the Beyonders to be part of this. And then you're going to transition over to the films where you'll start seeing characters from there going through the same situation, being recruited by the Beyonders to be part of this. Again, just mere speculation, you know, an opinion on my part, which I could be wrong about, but that's how I see the Beyonders being brought in. It's going to not or through post-credit scenes of MCU movies. It's going to be with post-credit scenes of series or season finales of MCU Disney Plus shows. That's what I see. and then it's going to slowly progress and integrate itself into the films, and then that's how we'll build to Secret Wars with the Beyonders being involved. But we'll have to see. Again, like I said, it's not my call or anything. It's just, as a fan myself, it's just mere speculation and mere projecting as to what I see. To what I see happening, I should say. As far as like when Secret Wars will come out, as well as how everything will come together eventually in the end. So yeah, my thought honestly is we're going to get Secret Wars in the future within the next 4 to 7 years. And within those next 4 to 7 years, I expect Secret Wars on the big screen to be in the same vein as Infinity War and Endgame and be treated as a 2-part story. That's what I see. I don't see how it can go anywhere else or any other direction except that. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. How do you feel about Secret Wars, potentially being a 2-part movie event on the big screen? And do you think maybe I'm on point or close to it as to the projected date within the next 4 to 7 years of its release, on the big screen? And do you think I have a point as to how the Beyonders will start showing up to build towards that event on the big screen? Let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment below, live chat during the premiere, like the video. Super chats, super stickers are open during the live chat of the premiere. Also the super thanks button down below if you want to donate through there. Also check me out at my Patreon at BW Roses to support me with a $1, $3 tier. Also check me out at my BW Roses Discussions podcast, which you can listen to at every podcast location except for Pandora. Also check me out at VENMO at BW Roses for content you can't get anywhere else here on YouTube due to copyright. Also check me out at VENMO at Brian-Walmer-2 to help support me there financially, and at Cash App at BW Roses 98. Also check me out at DeviantArt.com/BVW1979. And check me out at my Teespring store as well for merchandise you can get there. But again, guys, let me know what your thoughts are. How do you feel about all this? Do you have your own projection as to when you think